everybody. Node class, it is containing a data member and link to the next node. Link to the next node. Ref is a node type. We can create multiple node objects. First node object, ref is pointing to second node object. Second node object, ref is pointing to third node object. Third node object, ref is pointing to fourth node object. So here, definitely ref should be node type. Why? Because I'm creating a first node object to store I value 10. Inside that there is a ref. That ref should point to the second node object. For that purpose, ref should be node type. So node class containing only two members. One is a data member I, second one is a ref type. Node type. So please observe, first node should point to second node through ref. Second node should point to third node through ref. Fourth node should point to fifth node through ref. That is why ref type should be node. Ref type should be node. Then come to the E class. Here we are maintaining two node type attributes. First comma last. Class E containing two node type attributes and two methods, add and read. So we'll see add method functionality, read method functionality in the detailed way through diagram. Step by step I'll show you. While creating an object to E, first and last both will be null. While creating an object to E, first and last both will be null. So user is creating an object to E. Inside that object, first and last both will be null. Initially, while creating an object to E, first and last both will be null. In this stage, while first is null, last is null, in this stage we are adding one value. While adding first value in the E object, first and last both are null. Come on. We are adding first value assume this is the memory. This is the E object. It is containing a first and last. Both are nulls now. This is referred by E1 from the main method. Let us consider. This is the E1 from the main method. So main method, in the main method body, let us consider this is the main method. First line got over. By the time of executing first line, first and last from the E object is null. Now what it is doing, E1 dot add method is calling. How add method is calling? By using E1. And supplying argument as a 10. 10 is an argument, E1 as a current reference variable. Let me represent this as a add method. Inside add method, there is a I value. What is I value? We called add method by supplying argument as a 10. And how we called add method? By using E1. If E1 is used, then what could be this? What could be this? This is nothing but E1. To wherever E1 pointing to the same, this also pointing. Inside add method body, I is a local. This also inside add method body. Then we are creating a node object and assigning I value. We are creating a node object and assigning by N1, assigning to N1. Let us consider the node object. Yeah. So what are the members in the node object? Initially I value 0. In the next line we are assigning I value 10. The ref, it is a null only. We are not assigning any value by now. This is referred by N1. N1 will be local to add method. N1 is a local to add method. Inside a body of the add method, N1 is there. This is pointing to then afterwards there is a if block. This dot first, whether it is a null or not. Come on. This dot first is a null. Whenever this dot first is a null, if block executing, what is happening? This dot first is equal to n1. This dot first is equal to n1. Come on. Yes. This dot first is equal to n1. Whenever if block executing, else won't execute. Else is mainly for, come on. Else is mainly for taking the ref and assigning to the next element. Taking the ref and assigning to the next element. That will happen only from second element onwards, not in the first element. Yes or no? If block is only for first element. So remember this. If block is only for the first element, else block is for second element onwards. If block is only for the first element, else block is for second element onwards. Mainly, ref is assigning. So else block is mainly for second element onwards. You have to remember this forever. Please observe. In every data structure, we will be using add method functionality, read method functionality. This add and read is a basic for every structure. You should remember what we are doing in the if block, what we are doing in the else block. If block is for pointing to first element. If block is for referring to first element. If block is for referring to first element. What is else block? Else block is for second element onwards till to the last. Second element onwards till to the last. So we are adding first element. If block only executing, else is not executing. The last statement in the add method, it is very much required to maintain a reference to last element. If you have a reference to last element, then whenever you are adding a new element, directly you can add to the ref of the last. Come on, guys. If you have a reference to last element, whenever you are adding a new element, directly you can add to ref of the last through else. Come on. Every time. Whenever element adding is got over, last you should point to the last element. Whichever element adding. Whichever element you are adding, for that element, last you should point. If last is pointing to the current element, whichever we are adding, while adding a next element, you don't require to search which is the last element. Yes or no? The crystal clear. Three different points in the add method. If block, else block, after else block, one statement. If block is for first element, first node. Else block is for second element onwards. Second element onwards for every element. Last statement is for maintaining last element's reference every time, dynamically every time, you should have a reference to last element whichever you are adding. So for that purpose, so we are adding first element. So first element, this dot last also first element. Whichever element you are adding, last current element, that will be pointing to. So completely add method execution got over, removing the add method from the stack. The total add method getting removed from the stack. Inside a year object, first and last is there. First and last both are pointing to first node only. Yes or no? One element added. Year object containing first and last, both are pointing to first node. We are trying to add second node. So what is the second node adding? 20. 20 we are adding inside a year object. 20 we are adding inside a year object. Yes or no? 20 is adding inside a year object. So once again add method is coming into the stack. Come on guys. How we are calling add method? How we are calling? With I value 20 and the current reference variable is E1. So this is E1. Yes or no? Then what we are doing in the add method? Node object is creating and assigning to I value 20. Yes or no? I'm just representing one node object. I is equal to 20 ref. This is referred by N1. N1 from the add method. It's okay. Then N1 is ready. After N1, what is there in the add method? If block. Whether if block will execute. First is not a null. If first is not a null, if block will not be executing. I already told very clearly. If block is only for adding first element. Else is for second element onwards. Second element till to the last. So what is there in the else? This dot last dot ref is equal to n1. What is the meaning of this? This dot last dot ref. This dot last dot ref means ref of the first node. Come on. Ref of the first node. So now ref of the first node is a null. That null is replacing with. It will point to n1. Come on. This dot last dot ref is equal to n1. N1 is a second object. Second node. Crystal clear, everybody. else block got over. Through else block we made a link between first node and second node. Through else block we made a link between first node and second node. After executing else block, there is one more statement. Add method containing three functionalities: if block, else block, and afterwards the last statement. What is this? This dot last is equal to this dot last is equal to n1. So what is the meaning of this? This dot last is equal to n1. This dot last is equal to n1. What is the meaning of this? This dot last is equal to n1. This dot last is equal to n1. So what you understood? The last will point to the second node. The last will point to the second node. Everybody. Simple. So as of now, this last is pointing to the first node. This dot last pointing to n1. That is it. See, this dot last is equal to n1 is a very important statement. Through this statement only we are able to maintain a reference to the current object. Whenever you are adding a next object, new object, automatically you can go for last dot ref is equal to. Same last dot ref is equal to n1 we are keeping in the else block. Else block keep executing from second element onwards. Yes or no? Piece by piece you can remember why each and every statement. The total add method execution got over? Yes or no? The total add method execution completely got over. So totally two nodes added. Totally two nodes added. Yes or no? Totally two nodes completely added. Let us see third time add method. How we are calling add method? With I value 30 and this is pointing to this is pointing to E1. Now New node is creating inside a add method body, new node. What is the I value? What is the I value? This is referred by N1 from the add method. N1 pointing to N1 pointing to new object. Yes. What is the I value? 30. Yes. Now this portion has to execute. If block will not be executed. Why? Because first is not a null. Else block will execute. What is there in the else block? This dot, last dot, ref is equal to, who is N1? Who is N1? Last object, third object, or current object. Is that no? The current object referred by N1. The current object should be referred by previous object's ref through last dot ref is equal to N1. Last dot ref is equal to N1. Last dot ref is equal to N1. Else block executed. Afterwards, what is there? This dot last is equal to this dot last is equal to N1. What is the meaning of that? Even dot last should assign to the current last element. Now one element added to the structure. Yes or no? In throughout the linked list, in throughout data structures, you should know add and read. Almost all the functionalities are related to add and read. Now, total add method got over. Add method is removing from the stack. Let me show one more time add method. Everybody. So what is the current I value which is trying to add? I value 40. There is a this. Came for inquiry. Asked them to sit in the back. This pointing to here. So new object will create. Let us consider this is the new object with I value. I is equal to 40. Yeah. This is referred by N1. Now, if block will execute or else block will execute. We are continuously seeing else block execution from second onwards. Got it or not? In the else block, what is there? This dot, last dot, ref is equal to N1. This ref is pointing to the last one, which is N1. Yeah. After else block, what is the statement available? What is the meaning of this? To wherever current last is pointing, inside that ref is pointing to N1. Yeah, sorry. Last it should point to N1. Last it should point to N1. What is the meaning of this? Understood? Add method execution got it. Everybody should understand total 4 things in the add method body. 4 things. First one is node object creation. Node object creation. Second one is if block for the first node. The third one is else block for second node onwards till to the end. What about fourth one? The last very crucial statement, which is for maintaining a reference to Bangalore. Last object, whichever is current last. Got it or not? So totally remember the logic. You don't require to remember the statements. If you remember the procedure, automatically you can develop the statements. So procedure, first you create a node object, then develop a logic for the first element, that is if block. Then develop the logic for second element onwards till to the last, that is else block. Then maintain a reference to last element. Yesterday we have seen the difficulties of keep moving from first to last for every adding. For every adding, first to second, second to third, third to fourth, it takes more time for every adding. So to avoid that, we developed add method with just if else. Inside a if first element pointing. In the else second element onwards. The last statement very crucial. It is maintaining reference to whichever is the last element. Got it? Assume, guys, four elements added into the data structure. If four elements are added, our E object will be like this. E1 pointing to E object, first is pointing to first node, last is pointing to last node, first dot ref pointing to second, second dot ref pointing to third, third dot ref pointing to fourth, fourth dot ref, it is a null. Four elements only we added. Now, we have seen already, last is used for adding the next element very easily. Last is used for adding next element very easily. Last is pointing to the current last. Current last ref should point to the new element. We are maintaining the last only for adding next element very easily. Then first is mainly for storing first element, referred by first element. It is maintaining a reference of first element. Reading always should be from first element onwards. We should have a reference of first element in order to read. First element ref pointing anyhow to the second element. Second element ref pointing to third element. Third element ref pointing to fourth element. So first is mainly for reading purpose. Last is mainly for adding the next new element. First is mainly for reading. Anyhow, it is adding first element. Later on, we will be using first for reading purpose. First is mainly for the reading purpose. Through first, you can focus first element, read the first element ref, pointing to second element, go to the second element, read that one. In the body of the read method, N1 is equal to this dot first. I'm not using this here. By default, this is available. Yes or no? Go to the read method. This is the main method. This is the read method. Inside a read method, there is a local variable. What is that local variable? N1. N1. This N1 is pointing to, come on, this dot first. I didn't represent this. This is available. That this is nothing but E1. Through E1 only you called read method. Through E1 only we called read method. Check it out in the main method. By using E1 only we are calling read method. By using E1 only we called read method. E1 dot read. So inside a read method there is a this. Where this is pointing? This is pointing to first. This is pointing to E1. By using E1 only we called read method. Then N1 is equal to this dot first. N1 is equal to this dot first. To wherever first is pointing to the same N1 dot this. Sorry. N1. To wherever this dot first is pointing. Wherever this dot first is pointing to the same N1 also. Guys, N1 is equal to first. That N1 is equal to this dot first. That this is nothing but E1. By using E1 only we call the read method. So N1 is equal to this dot first. This is the this dot first. Come on. This is pointing to even pointing object. Inside that first. This dot first pointing to first node. Come on. This is pointing to first node. This is pointing to first node. N1 dot. Sorry. This dot first. Now whether N1 is a null or not? N1. N1 is a null, right? N1 null. N1 not a null. N1 is not a null. If N1 not a null, if N1 is not a null, it goes inside a while loop body. Inside a while loop body, what we are keeping? N1 dot I. What is the N1 dot I? 10. 10 is printing. 10 is printing. Afterwards, N1 is equal to N1 dot ref. First right hand side you can observe. N1 dot ref. N1 dot ref. So what is N1 dot ref? Yes. N1 dot ref. N1 dot ref. Now N1 pointing to first object. That first object ref is pointing to second object. N1 dot ref is a second object. That second object N1 dot ref assigning back to N1. What is the meaning of that? This N1 pointing to second object. So one iteration of while loop got over. It's going to the next iteration. Checking what is N1. Whether N1 is a null. N1 not a null. If N1 not a null, control will go inside a body. Read N1 dot I. Reading N1 dot I. So what is N1 dot I? 20. 20 is printing. After 20 is printing, N1 is equal to N1 dot ref. N1 is equal to N1 dot ref. What is the meaning of this? N1 pointing to second object. Second object ref is a third object. Right hand side N1 dot ref means third object representing. That is returning back to N1. Sir, no? Come on, guys. Second iteration got over. Third iteration, whether N1 is a null. If N1 is not a null, it will go inside a while loop. So then printing N1 dot I. What is N1 dot I? 30. 30 is printing. Afterwards, N1 is equal to N1 dot ref. What is N1 is equal to N1 dot ref? So third element pointing to the fourth element. Now, whether N1 is a null, not a null, going inside a body, printing N1 dot I 40, N1 dot I 40. Afterwards, N1 is equal to N1 dot ref. What is N1 dot ref? Null. N1 dot ref is a null. Huh. What is N1 dot ref? So N1 pointing to last object now. Last object ref is the null. Come on. N1 dot ref is the null. That null is assigning back to N1. That null is assigning back to N1. This complete reference will be removing. Sir, no. Now N1 is a null. If N1 is a null, in the next iteration, it will come away from the while loop. Why it is coming away from the while loop? N1 is the null. We are looking for not null to continue. Because of N1 is a null, you are getting a false coming away. We read all the elements. Sir, no. These two operations are mandatory in the data structures. So I think everybody understood very well.